Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of We Watch Shudder.
We sure do.
My name is Michelle, and who's here with me?
That would be JD.
JD, you're so awful at our introductory format.
I'm the worst.
I am a stickler for it.
I'm the very worst. It's
love
JD. It's always
I always start
JD.
saying, and you always have something to say immediately, and it's very funny to me that I'm like, no, I say it in this tone. I have said it in this tone for a year and a half. I will not deviate. You deviate, I refuse. I am a stickler.
I am a deviant. You're not wrong.
You know us, all about rules and a strict format that we never, ever deviate from or forget.
That would be
on We Watch Shudder.
That would for sure be my supervillain name is the Deviator.
The Deviator. Mine would be the what did we say it was?
The Perpetrator?
I'm the Perpetrator.
Michelle, the Perpetrator.
My
last
superpower
name.
is being confusing.
Your superpower is perpetrating.
Perpetrating, yeah, like you do. Well, like we do, we talk about Shudder. Shudder is a horror and horror adjacent streaming site. It's like Netflix, but horror, so way edgier. You know us,
it's
loving
like Netflix,
being all
but
full of
cooler.
edge. Yeah, I'm like a knife. I'm
all edges.
edgy. All edges. By the way, I did almost accidentally stab my husband yesterday because I was cutting an apple, and he went,
fun.
"Oh my God, you almost stabbed me!" And then I realized that I was listening to a song called "My Love Is the Killing Kind," and I laughed really hard, but he didn't find it as funny as I did. So
probably because you were the one doing the killing.
Yeah, but like I didn't kill him. It would have just been a little nick. I'm not good with knives, and now we have a very sharp set of knives, and I was using them, and he was like, "Oh, well, when you use them, you gotta do it this way." And I was like, "I know how to use a knife, John." And then it was while I was rinsing it, and I wound up cutting my hand really badly. So I just
do we maybe need to get adult social services involved here, Michelle? Are you not safe to be around sharp objects?
I think what
Are
I
you
need
a danger
is like
to yourself and others?
I need like those kindergartner scissors where they can't really cut shit, but like for knives, but I still need them to work.
The blunted ones.
Yeah, I need like the blunt ones, but knives, because I do want to cut up my apples. I don't want to eat my apple whole, but I am very bad at knives.
So your solution to the problem of you being very bad at knives is, well, I mean, we'll at least take away my ability to stab you with them. I'll still be able to slice and cut, but just no stabbing. That's
stabbing is where the problem is.
It does limit your options, I suppose.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So,
I'm at the point where I'm just going to start using spoons for everything because I am not good with fire and knives. Anyway, that's conversations for another day.
How did
Should we
fire
talk about
get
Shudder?
involved here?
Oh, man, I'll tell you stories about fire. I have lit myself on fire twice.
Okay. All right.
But that's for another day. During another 5-minute Michelle Goes Off on a Tangent episode. We're almost at the 5-minute mark. They don't need to hear about fire. They'll come back for it. From now on, they'll just keep listening, waiting to hear the fire stories.
I feel
there
like
are 2 of them.
I feel like at this point, if we didn't just babble for a while at the top of each episode, people would be like, "Man, what's going on between JD and
Are
Michelle?
they mad at
they
each
have,
other?
Like, right?
Yeah.
Is there like some beef happening right now? Or are they just
Exactly. They started talking about the movie
showing up?
immediately.
Right?
Did they talk to each other a lot this week? Did they
didn't have
socialize with
shit
other
to
people?
say.
Yeah.
Didn't have shit to say for other people.
I got so much shit to say about
We got
this
stuff
movie.
to talk about. We got to do the therapy portion of the show.
But I love the therapy portion.
It's good
cheaper
times.
than actual therapy.
Yeah.
What
movie did we decide to watch? Well, we didn't decide. Shudder decided. They released a brand new Shudder original this week. Michelle, what's it called?
Perpetrator.
It's called Perpetrator.
Perpetrator.
Perpetrator is the name of the film, written and directed by
I
Jennifer.
know I said I was going to keep this bit going, but I don't want to hate mail. We know it's Perpetrator, but we refuse. It is Perpetrator.
Yeah, the movie is called Perpetrator. We do know how to pronounce that word.
Perpetrator.
I feel like Perpetrator. Yeah, exactly. I think that's anyway. So Perpetrator, new film written and directed by Jennifer Reeder. And just right off the bat, Michelle, before we go any further, do you know why you should remember Jennifer Reeder?
Jennifer Reeder did Night's End.
She was the director of Night's End, the third episode we ever did, way back in late March or early April of 2022. I did. Oh, man. Oh, foolish. I went back and I listened to that 22-minute pile of episode, and man, have we come a long way. And I think in certain ways, absolutely, we've come a long way. But that
I would
movie
have
was
constructive criticism now instead of
just criticism.
Yeah, instead of just criticism, it would be constructive criticism now.
Right. And
hopefully.
so I just wanted to get that out of the way because there's actually some things I'm going to reference in that issue. Or in that issue. That's not from that episode is what I meant to say. But Perpetrator, I don't know if you noticed, Michelle, but the Shudder descriptive script this time is pretty good. Are you okay with that descriptive script?
I am okay with the descriptive script of
Let us
the
have
Shudder
it.
Variety. Okay. Perpetrator. But it's all in
Michelle.
capital letters, sir.
Perpetrator. When it's in all caps, it's
capital,
Perpetrator.
Okay. Perpetrator follows Johnny, a wild and impulsive teenage girl living precariously in a town where young women continue to go missing and the powers she's forced to unlock to survive. Perpetrator.
A Shudder original.
Shudder
Perpetrator.
Well, do you want to hit us with your spoiler-free thoughts?
I do want to hit you with my... I don't want to hit you with any... We should probably... I don't know. That's an incredibly violent way. I just thought about that.
I don't think hitting has to be violent. Hitting can be sexual for all people know. I ain't kink shaming.
Well, that's... I would... You may want to talk to your husband then about hitting me with your spoiler-free thoughts.
Also, I'm really into slap fights.
I am not Urban Dictionarying spoiler-free thoughts. I don't care. I don't want to know.
I'm going to go add an entry.
Yeah. Perpetrator, like I said, I went back and listened to that episode that we recorded about Night's End, mostly because I wanted to remember what some of my thoughts about that movie were. And I don't know if you did the same thing. Did you do the same thing by chance?
I did not, because I know I remember things about that episode, and I know it's not
so do
really
I.
worth listening to, but I'm sure the things you're going to bring up will actually be, if they're what I remember from Jennifer's previous work, it'll be good to kind of talk about it.
Well, no, all I wanted to say is what we both kind of said about that movie at the time when you parse it down into, look, guys, we've come a long way in how hard we criticize movies. Maybe cut us some slack on those earlier episodes. But ultimately...
But they were really funny sometimes. They were mean but funny.
Also, they were shorter because we don't do so much of this, but this is way funner. So funner, more fun, I don't know. Anyway, our consensus, our base consensus overall for that movie, Night's End, at the time, was there were definitely some enjoyable things in the production of the film. There was some fun cinematography and other cinematic elements going on here, but a lot of our issues with it were more rooted in the script and what happens in the film, that sort of thing. And I only want to mention that because we were not super big on that movie. We gave it a combined average score of 1.375 skulls. I was a 1 and you were a 1.75, and all of that to get to, I love that we finally got Jennifer Reeder directing a movie written by Jennifer Reeder. I enjoyed this so much more than I enjoyed Night's End. I don't think it's a perfect movie by any means. I have some very specific things that I dislike about it. Also, we're going to have to talk about the promotional image on Shudder again. But I really enjoyed this. I thought there were some very interesting ideas at play here. In fact, to the extent that part of what ultimately I need to, kind of holds me back on this movie is there are almost too many good ideas happening here all at once. But I'm going to give this 3.5 skulls, and we'll talk about more in detail why when we get into the spoiler section. What are your spoiler-free thoughts, Michelle?
My spoiler-free thoughts are that I'm very surprised that you enjoyed this that much. I did not, but based on your review, I think the things that we are both going to agree on, being the positive parts, are probably going to be the same things. The strengths of this movie are probably very easy to point out. Where it falls apart for me is, like you said, it probably has too many ideas. And I have a feeling we're going to agree on that as well. But for me, it was too much, and it just it fell apart because of that. But it sounds like it didn't really for you. I unfortunately am going with a 1.5.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Ooh.
I don't like when I don't like movies. I would definitely prefer to like the movie. I am surprised that you like it so much. But I think, like I said, the things that you like about it are probably the same things I like about it. But the overall cohesive story just did not work for me. And I think it was a bigger hindrance for me than it was for you.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Fascinating.
So 1.5 skulls from Michelle, 3.5 from me. That's an easy average. 2.5 skulls right down the middle on this one, which, by the way, as of right now, has an aggregate total of only 2 out of 5 skulls on the Shudder website. When we get to the point, and I realized there's at least one episode where we forgot to do this. But when we get to the part where we talk about some of the comments that have been left on the Shudder website, there's some interesting things going on there. Some weird folks.
I have stronger opinions about people's reviews of this movie than I do the movie itself.
You know, interestingly enough, I may be right there with you on that one too.
I have some thoughts. I will make sure to refrain from using names, but I have noticed a trend in the Shudder viewer reviews.
Oh,
and
you
I'm
don't
not
say.
okay with it. Yeah. So
you don't
we'll get to
say.
that.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to check out the movie, I mean, JD enjoyed it more than I did. I think all movies are worth at least watching once, especially these ones that are Shudder originals or exclusives. In September, we are finally getting a new original or exclusive every Friday. It has been a while since that happened, so even if I don't like the movie, I'm still going to encourage other people to go out and watch it so that maybe they will do this more often. I want new content. I want things to be excited about. I have known about Perpetrator for a while. I have been very excited for this one to come out. So even though I didn't like it, I'm still glad that I got to watch it. So that's me on my soapbox. Once again, we are not sponsored. They won't even acknowledge us. We just like what they do.
Acknowledge me, senpai.
Acknowledge me. It's Notice Me, senpai. Thank you very much. Anywho, if you want to go check it out.
Oh, darn.
I'm
really disappointed that I didn't accurately reference some element of otaku culture. I'm torn up about that. Anyway.
That was more weeaboo culture anyway.
See, again, I don't know shit about shit.
I know.
I'm an old man who doesn't know shit about shit.
Get off my lawn. But get on with
Cloud.
the spoiler.
Shakes fisted Perpetrator.
Perpetrator. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I have nothing more to say in the spoiler.
Look, yeah, they look if they haven't figured out that we're about into spoiler territory by now, that's on them. So the very first thing I want to point out right away is, God damn it, Michelle, once again, the Shudder website, and I don't know who makes this decision, if it's a decision made by somebody on the production team, and Shudder just puts up what they choose or what, there is a spoiler giveaway in the image on the website. Like, that whole bit with the crazy teeth and all that, like, that's one of the final reveals of the film, and I feel like was intended to be an interesting sort of like, add even another level on top of this reveal. But the whole time I'm watching the movie waiting for that to happen because I saw it on that image. Who the fuck is responsible for this?
You know who isn't responsible? Alicia Silverstone. She's back and she's not making the posters.
I just had to get that off my chest.
I know.
Oh, God damn it. It's so frustrating, Michelle. It's so frustrating. Please, talk for a little while I catch my breath.
Yeah, sure. So I will give a very, very brief breakdown of the plot for anybody who did not go to check it out. So Johnny is a troubled teen who lives with her father, who is heavily medicated and can't even afford to pay rent. And then she goes to live with her aunt, Alicia Silverstone, whose movie name I have forgotten. And then she goes to a school, and the school has active shooter drills that are hilarious and absurd. And the guy from Glow is the principal, and that's really hard for me to get past because, again, he's in a woman-centric thing, and he's still the same guy, but eviler. And there are a bunch of girls who go missing, and they go missing after sleeping with this one guy who knows what to do with his tongue. Don't worry, he's also under 18. There is, when I say guy, I do need to specify, not a man. Still a teenager, just like the rest of them. But then they realize, like, wow, you sleep with this guy and you go missing, and they still keep sleeping with him. Teenage girls, get your shit together. There are other fish in the sea. You don't have to sleep with the guy just to ensure that you will get murdered. I know in 2023 we are all looking forward to dying, but you don't have to do that to yourself. So then they make the connection that people are sleeping with this dude, and then they're going missing. And then Johnny's got superpowers. Her superpowers are empathy. She can become another person and feel their feelings. And that's terrifying. I can't deal with my own feelings. How would I deal with somebody else's? And she says, you know what? After all this blood stuff is done and I'm not shoving my hand into a hole that was made by my blood vomit, and I'm not replacing my aunt's fucking toilet because I demolished it, and nobody at school asked questions when she said I needed to pay my aunt back for destroying her toilet. Nobody had questions. That didn't become a mean nickname. They went to a different high school than I did. But she goes, hey, I'm going to sleep with Johnny so that I can get kidnapped because I have superpowers and I'll get out of it. And then she does get kidnapped, and they give her a butthole in her chest that's connected to a tube, and the tube is connected to the perpetrator. And he's like, oh boy, I enjoy this. And she's like, I don't. And he's like, you better not cry. And then she starts mocking him because she is in high school, and high school kids can be mean. And he's like, I don't like this. And then he puts her in a place with all the other girls he's kidnapped, and it turns out that he's sucking them dry of all their nutrients and their youngness, and probably taking their organs and whatever else the fuck is happening. And then she reunites with her mom. Her mom's superpower is a good sense of smell, which I would be very mad if I was given a superpower and it was the ability to smell things really well. So she tracked down her daughter because her daughter smells like her daughter. And then they're like, by the way, I have been your dad this whole time. And I was feeling things and smelling things, and I couldn't handle it. So I started doing drugs. And now you live with your aunt, who's Alicia Silverstone. She's been up to some things ever since she did that movie with Brendan Fraser. That was a fucking great movie back in the 90s. Back to the Present. I don't remember. We'll get back to the point. They find out that Johnny's almost murderer of all of these girls who slept with the high school guy was the principal. The guy from Glow was stealing their essence. Also, there is a nurse who's obsessed with plastic surgery. There is a creepy cop. But hey, in 2023, doesn't that describe most cops? The end.
Holy shit.
I paid attention to the plot of this one.
Yeah.
I paid attention.
I'd say you did.
I paid so much attention.
Holy shit. That was oh my god. I don't I'm not sure.
Episode over.
I can tell you this much, Michelle. The little blurb that goes on the website and out into the feed for this episode is absolutely going to be, what is it that, or what could possibly have led Michelle to scream, "Teenage girls, get your shit together"?
I would like it stated, I do not practice these ahead of time. This is just my stream of consciousness. And this is what I was thinking throughout this movie. Teenage girls. I don't care if he knows what to do with his tongue. You can teach anybody what to do with their tongue. There's plenty of time for you left. You don't need to get murdered. I promise that at your age and at his age, they have a lot to learn. Like, you do not have to say this is the best it will get. It will get so much better. Just step it up.
Whoa.
Step it up. Know your worth.
That is fabulous. So that's more or less what goes down in this movie. And I think we've got at least a cursory understanding of why Michelle came down where she did come down on this one. Do you have any other specific details or criticisms that you would like to make, Michelle, or do you think you got all your uglies out in that tirade?
Oh, my uglies. I think I would like to hear your opinion on things because, like I said, like 5 times this episode, because I always have to find a way to segue. What you liked about it is probably what I liked about it, but for me, it did not come together. So I'm curious to hear your praise of it.
Sure. So first of all, in order to get to that, I have to start, interestingly enough, by telling you why this didn't quite fully work for me. Ultimately, I feel like this is 2 different movies that got sort of dovetailed together into one movie. Like, you have this story about Johnny and her dad mom and her Aunt Hildy and this thing that they all are. It's not... I thought this was... It gave me thoughts of another movie that we really enjoyed called Hellbender, in the sense that it's almost Hellbender. Yeah, it's almost like a witch thing, but they're very clearly trying to create their own sort of specific rules and operations for what this is, right? And of course, the ultimate goal of that is the symbolism that they're trying to present. That whole story about her getting her powers and developing them, and like, I felt like I understood that, and sort of like moving towards then having to use those powers to solve some kind of mystery. And so that was the one side. And then you also have the mystery side, right, where you have these girls who are being kidnapped, and you have this really weird serial killer guy, and then maybe there are more people involved, and like you said, it's also somehow connected to this teenage boy from this very small private school that everybody goes to. And then her dad is her mom, and we covered that part. But ultimately, I thought the first story that we talked about, who these women are and what this thing is, like, I thought they gave us enough to kind of be able to follow what was happening and sort out some on a surface level. I would have loved to see that mythology developed in much more significant detail. I want to know more about who they are. The Aunt Hildy said something about like we're more like shells for something else, and it keeps coming back and back and back. I want to, and like I said, they each have they tap into this well of power or whatever that comes through the blood. But it manifests itself in different ways for them, but also apparently in some similar ways. There's this whole angle to this thing where they have the ability to just like gush blood out into the world and turn it into some like weird portal to a blood dimension where people can be trapped forever or at least for a period of time. They do some really grotesque things with fingering bloody orifices. That's we get into some real heavy body horror towards the end of this. Some real David Cronenberg shit. Like you were talking about those buttholes that they use as ports to transfer fluids. I liked that part of it. The thing that didn't work for me is that I feel like the idea was that we as the audience were supposed to very much know that the principal was the killer/kidnapper, but it was so obvious through the various things that they did to show it to us, that the only way I can accept that they didn't know who he was until that last moment in the film's narrative is to assume that on top of everything else, these characters are kind of dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's pretty like, and I don't know if I feel like that maybe is just a misstep in the writing and directing here, that, like, again, I think the intent was they wanted it to be something where we as an audience understand from the drop what's going on here, but these characters are genuinely mystified and have no idea. It's just that side of, and I think if you, and I don't even know if you could do that, like if you separated these two films, or I don't know, maybe this, and this, you know, is something that's rare for me to say, especially when it's 100 minutes already. Maybe this does need to be a longer film. You know, maybe there are some ideas here that are worth developing, but that's what I really liked about this, is I did think there were a lot of very interesting ideas here to develop, and I find myself wondering if maybe there is some intent for this to be franchised somehow, for there to be more stories about these characters and that sort of thing. I guess I don't know, but I really enjoyed those elements. I thought some of the more intense, horrific stuff, the metaphor in a lot of cases I think is very on the nose, but I think very effective. Towards the end, when they've got the principal / killer in the back of that van, and he's got his weird port thing in his chest, and it's all bloody and messy, and she just starts aggressively digging into it and rips his fucking heart out. I thought, first of all, the first portion of that was real heavy on the allusions to aggressive sexual violence in a role reversed situation, and sort of a revenge sort of scenario there, I think, in certain ways, but also just a very sudden, incredibly gory, brutal moment. And I love a movie that sort of stays away from things like that and then punches you with the real heavy shit right at the end. A movie like Chloe Okuno's Watcher from last year, where it's mostly psychological and story, and then once you get to the end, it's like there's a fucking, well, I don't want to tell you what's going on at the end of that movie if you haven't seen it yet.
So nervous.
But no, I agree with you that this could have been better. I was really captivated by a lot of what I did see, and I am very, very interested to see if anything more comes from this world and these characters, and if not, I'm certainly really, really interested in seeing what Jennifer Reeder does in the future when she's directing her own scripts. I felt like this was so much better for me, a much more enjoyable experience than Night's End was.
Comparing it kind of to Night's End, which I did not go back and listen to, but I distinctly remember in that movie that there were a lot of really cool moments that once again did not become a cohesive, good story. There were so many good moments, but then they were just not fully fleshed out. And I feel like that is a lot of what happened in this movie. Was all the supernatural stuff really cool, does not come together. Lots of random ideas trying to make it, you know, like you said, a witch, but also not a witch.
Right.
So these new variations on something that is familiar to us
Ultimately,
get hashed out.
Female power is what we're talking about here.
Exactly. And to me, what did become stronger then, because the supernatural elements just did not come together or make sense and were a little bit baffling, I enjoyed the storyline of hunting down the killer of these girls and how weird he was. And all of the things involving him felt like a separate movie, because then it got into the very dark comedy. And I knew I am supposed to laugh at this. This is absurd. This is ridiculous. But then when it got back to the supernatural elements, I couldn't tell, is this supposed to be a funny line, Or is this something that is being delivered in a way that I am not taking it the way that they intended for it to be? I couldn't tell, like, is this also dark comedy? It felt like a completely different tone and completely different movie.
Yeah,
so
the movie
while the
very much, it very much plays with tone in weird ways. Because, like I said, early on, the principal just seems like this bumbling goof, and some of the things like
the shooter drill.
These shooter drills is just like, what is
hilarious.
It's I mean, again, very dark humor. But the movie does play with tone a lot, and I think the feeling I got was that was sort of a technique to again add to the jarringness when it does switch back to the more aggressive, more shocking and horrific elements that happen later on in the story.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I was still in a comedic mindset and could not tell, like, this is funny, but I don't think it's supposed to be, and it's something that I'm not really enjoying, so now I'm kind of just laughing at the movie, and I don't like doing that. I would much rather watch a movie that I truly, truly enjoy. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about this one because you covered a lot of what I thought. We're definitely being nicer to it than we were with Jennifer Reeder's last piece that
I think it's also
as one of the VHS 94 segments.
I think it's I think I'm definitely being kinder, but I think it's also a movie that's easier to be kind to. I feel like
she has improved.
I feel like there's and again I feel like a lot of what I prefer here over that film is script based and not direction based. Very very interested to see what Jennifer Reeder does from here. By the way, I'm looking at IMDb, and IMDb has a promotional image for Perpetrator that is very similar in design to the one on Shudder, but doesn't give away the Fang thing from the very end of the movie. Oh, yeah, speaking of the very end of the movie, that's part of why I thought, is this going to develop into something? Because there's that moment right at the end, right? Because earlier in the movie, they had subtly suggested, when Hildy is explaining some of these things, she does say in kind of passing, she's like, we can pass it on, but it must be done judiciously or something to that effect. And then you have that sort of epilogue scene where you have Hildy and Johnny and Jean at the table with all of these girls who have survived this situation and clearly implying that they're going to be expanding their ranks, so to speak. I'm curious to see where this is going, and if we do get more, I feel like I'm going to really enjoy where this goes. I thought the movie is very good. There are little moments in the script, just sort of like lines just in passing that add so much depth. Like the one that really stands out to me is very early on in the movie when we're first meeting Johnny. She's burglarized a home, and she's gone to see a guy who's apparently some kind of fence and sell him some of these things that she's taken. And at one point he tries to make a sexual advance at her. And the line she said, it isn't just no. She says, no, not this time. And I felt like just in that one line, we learned so much about the places where this character has already had to go in in her life, right? I thought it was a very subtle but very profound thing, and there are moments like that, little moments all throughout this movie that I really enjoyed. I thought this was fantastic. I thought it had some really interesting critiques of I loved that sequence where they're after the girls have escaped and they're at that small assembly at the school right before they find out that the principal is the bad guy, where that dude, and it's so clearly a scene where they're like that dude comes out and he starts reciting that thing and getting all emotional, and every one of these girls wants to just roll their fucking eyes, right? Because it's so clearly like, oh, it's a dude trying to make his emotional experience the centerpiece of this awful thing that happened to us. And I don't think that was intended to be subtle in any way at all, but I did enjoy that element of it. This is definitely a movie, I think it's safe to say, by women, intended for women. I know you didn't connect with it overall as a piece of storytelling, but would you say this is definitely a movie with those sorts of intentions?
I can tell what the meaning of it was.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think it was well delivered, but I acknowledge that it's there.
So that's Perpetrator, guys. Perpetrator, if you're cool like the rest of us. It's available on Shudder right now. Probably on Shudder forever on account of it being a Shudder original. Do we want to look at some of the other member comments?
I was about
Michelle?
to say, I want your thoughts on these reviews.
Oh, I got it.
You go ahead, because you're going to say it's so much better and meaner than I ever
well,
sterner.
Look, I there's a part of me that doesn't even necessarily want to give it a lot of time, right? It's like, look, I really appreciate the fact that there are more women writing and directing horror films, if for no other reason than I'm actually finally starting to see, I feel, a decent amount of unique spins on stories that I haven't been seeing in a long while. I think there are genuinely new ideas simply from that element, but it's so fucking obvious. Like, there are some glowingly positive reviews and just some incredibly derisive reviews on here, and it's just so, to me anyway, and I'm sure the people who wrote these reviews would just be like, oh, it's such bullshit, whatever, but to me, it's so glaringly obvious how much baked in misogyny there is in so many of these fucking comments. It's people who just can't, for the fucking life of them, handle the fact that, oh my God, how did you let a woman write and direct a film? What the fuck were you thinking? And it's so transparent, and it's so sad. And it's like, no, like this, and again, I'm a person who will tell you, I didn't give it 5 skulls. I thought it was a 3.5, but I don't know. What did you want to say about this? Because this shit is so, I've reached a point where I don't even know how to fucking respond to or deal with these kind of people.
It is frustrating. I did not like this movie. My complaint is not that the director was a woman or that it had LGBTQ characters.
You had problems with the storytelling.
Yeah, I don't understand reviews that are purely around that and saying that it's feminist garbage just because it has a woman in it and it is a woman director. And yes, of course, there are those underlying messages, but to just say, oh, I turned it off for that reason. Do you know how many other types of movies that are the same thing repeatedly done in the horror genre?
Right.
And this is the one that is apparently too repetitive for you now. It doesn't make sense to me. I didn't even enjoy the movie, but my criticisms are not, I hate that the people who made this movie exist. And I just don't understand that. I think that if you can't get past the fact that, oh, there's somebody named Jennifer who made a movie.
Oh, God.
I think you need to rethink a few things. It's unfortunate. And I don't criticize anybody who said, like, I started watching this, I hated it, I turned it off. That's fine. We all have different things that we want to spend our time on. We all enjoy things differently. It is specifically how many comments are saying that they're tired of women directors and LGBTQ characters.
It's annoying as shit. But thankfully, also a lot of people who clearly very much enjoyed this film and are showing their support for it. I like I said, I definitely don't put it way up there at the 5 skull range. There are a few 5 skull reviews on here. Here's one that I really enjoy. This is from Stevie Danger 666, 5 skulls. Surreal, absurdist puzzle box of a thriller that feels like a feminist reading of Twin Peaks melding together with Ginger Snaps. A coming-of-age story drenched in blood, it's bold and challenging filmmaking from a modern-day auteur. Masterful, will make my year-end top 10. That is somebody who loved the shit out of this movie.
And there's a lot of people who didn't like it, which, again, is fine. If your review is centered around the fact that a woman made it.
Right.
And not the quality of what that woman made, I'm just disappointed in you. I think I've just always had this illusion that horror community is so much more inclusive. So then the fact that we do this show every week and I see Shudder comments every week, and it seems like if there is a female director, it automatically just gets terrible reviews and people say they didn't even bother to watch it for that reason. That's so disappointing, and it goes against a lot of what I have always felt about the community. So I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Step it up, you guys. Expose yourself to other things.
Get your I don't want to dwell on this too long, but and I will forego because it's a negative comment giving any publicity to the name here. But from a One Skull review, in fact, responding to Stevie Danger 666, who said it would be in their year-end top 10, says, "Wow, I highly suggest watching Federico Fellini's City of Women after watching this to reinstate your love for filmmaking." Because yes, let's take this person who clearly very much loved and enjoyed a movie made by women about women, and let's get the perspective of some women from a fucking Italian dude from like 50, 60 years ago. That's the one. That's the one that's the real picture of incredible. Get the fuck out of here, man. Jesus Christ.
And they have to pick a movie that is specifically a man versus women and being this is why I love filmmaking.
Right.
That's your response.
Right. Like there are any fucking number of Fellini movies he could have named, or they could have named, or she could have named. I don't know if the person but there are so many movies they could have named in that comment, and they specifically chose City of Women. Give me a break.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, this is a movie that maybe some of you will like, maybe some of you won't. I think it's definitely worth your time to give it a look if you have the time. Anything else you want to add here, Michelle?
Nope. It's called Perpetrator, and I will think that till I die.
Jennifer Reeder
Which will
presents
be soon.
Perpetrator. Say goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.
We Watch Shudder is a production of Rat Factory Media, your home for all of today's Rat Factoryist podcasts. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests of We Watch Shudder are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Rat Factory Media. But wait, aren't Rat Factory Media and We Watch Shudder the same people? Shut your cake hole, Charlie. Nobody asked you. We Watch Shudder is available free on all major podcast platforms, and the easiest way to support We Watch Shudder is also free. Just leave a rating and review on your platform of choice. Merge your consciousness with ours on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. We're at We Watch Shudder on all those social media platforms. Or find us the old-fashioned way, on the web at WeWatchShudder.com or by email at mail@WeWatchShudder.com. Heck, you can even leave us a voicemail at 701-566-9510. No, seriously, 701-566-9510. Try it if you dare.